Hey, Alyssa.
Hey, Sam.
Are you ready for today's podcast?
I'm ready to rumble.
So one of you guys requested this on our last podcast. You had commented in the YouTube section saying saying that you wanted us to take a political compass test. Christine from Simply Nailogical had done this recently.
Dude, I love Simply Nailogical.
She's like pretty great.
I've watched her, I would say, for like 2 or 3 years now.
She's Canadian, isn't she?
She is Canadian. She lives in Ottawa.
My girl.
I know.
Okay.
She's so great.
Okay, so this is the whole thing that it says before the test.
Okay.
It says, please note that this isn't a survey and these aren't questions. We don't like to label it. They're propositions. To question the logic of individual ones that irritate you is to miss the point. Some propositions are extreme and some are moderate. That's how we can show you whether you lean towards extremism or moderation on the compass. Your responses should not be overthought. Some of them are intentionally vague. Their purpose is to trigger reactions in the mind, measuring feelings and prejudices rather than the detailed opinions on policies.
Okay.
So because what I thought we could do is like answer them step by step. I guess you'll have to like answer separately so we can see both of our political compass. But originally I was thinking that we should like
expand.
Go through each one.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, can you send me the link?
I just texted it to you.
Oh, she's so on top of it.
I'm like a professional.
I only have 5%.
Okay, well, my phone's better answer quick.
Yeah, no kidding. So I think that Christine and Ben might be, that's how she says Ben's name. For anybody who watches Simply Nailogical. I think they might be like a little bit smarter than me. These questions.
Same. So the first question is, if economic globalization is inevitable, it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interests of transnational corporations. And you can say you strongly disagree, agree, or strongly agree.
Okay, I see. So basically, like, we don't want these billion-dollar companies to be the only ones that are benefiting.
Yeah, like should economic globalization benefit these companies or should it benefit humanity?
Humanity. I strongly agree. I feel like you and I are going to have very similar results.
I think so too.
Because we have like we really don't disagree on politics.
Can you imagine though if there's like a real left field wrench that leaves us like shell shocked?
This is the first fight we have.
Yeah. The next, it's not a question, it's a statement. I'd always support my country whether it was right or wrong. I strongly disagree.
Yeah, I feel like we might get a little heat for that. But I don't like to be like blind. You know what I mean? Like I like to see, because there's policies that I do agree with and I don't agree with, even under like our administration right now. And I wouldn't just like blindly accept those.
Yeah. Because
they're policies of my country. Like I want to better my country.
Yeah.
Instead of just being like, yep, my country's the greatest for
like
no reason.
I don't think that like standing by your country blindly serves anybody.
Yeah.
But especially so the citizens of that country. You know what I mean? So I strongly disagree with that.
I disagree. Like I'm not saying strongly disagree because I am still,
and this is the end of our friend.
No. Because I am like patriotic. I love Canada. Right. So I don't want to strongly disagree because it's not that I don't support my country, but
the next question is going to just rock your world.
Oh no. All right.
The next statement is no one chooses his or her country of birth, so it's foolish to be proud of it. And I disagree with that.
Yeah, I'm not going to strongly disagree because it's true. You don't choose your country of birth. It's such a lottery. Yeah. Right. Any circumstance, like your socioeconomical circumstance, like your privilege, and like it's a lottery because we don't get to choose that. Yeah. But I don't think that it's foolish to be proud of things that people worked hard before you to implement.
Well, and also like to me, like I would say that I'm proud of Canada. Because obviously on the opposite side of that, like there's still bad things about Canada. Of course, there's bad things in every single country, but I do feel like overall Canada does lean like a little bit more liberal, like our like gay rights and stuff like that has been resolved for quite some time. Like that's not an if anymore.
Yeah, I would say, sorry, I have a bubble in my throat. I would say resolved legally wise, because of course there's still like
homophobia and
yeah. I was gonna say dipshit Canadians, but homophobia a little bit more appropriate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I do feel like overall, just generalizing, Canada does lean a little bit more liberal, and that's something that I'm proud of because obviously like that aligns with my views.
Yeah.
So I'm proud of Canada. But I think that going back to the last statement before this, I can be proud of Canada and I can love my country without agreeing with everything that it does.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, the next statement is our race has many superior qualities compared with other races.
What do you mean? Like this is what I read is like our race, I feel is like the human race, but I'm assuming it means you and I are white.
That's what I read it as.
Okay. Yeah, because like what would it be comparing other races to otherwise?
The rat race.
Yeah, I strongly disagree.
I strongly disagree as well for all the obvious reasons.
Yeah, I'm just like thinking back to when it's don't get emotionally charged, and I'm like, I hate that this question's even on here. Obviously it's for a reason, but like to think that somebody would hit agree
or strongly agree.
Yeah. Let me see your results.
I'm fucking great. Oh Lord. The next statement is the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Oh.
Ooh.
Well, but there's too many variables here. Like
to question the logic of it would be to miss the point.
It's in they're vague on purpose, but I wouldn't say that inherently the enemy of my enemy would be my friend. I think that it would just depend. I mean, sure, if somebody's an enemy of my enemy, they're probably more alike me. Yeah. And we probably have like the same, more similar values. But yeah, they could be an enemy in a totally different way. So I'm going to disagree.
I'm going to disagree too. Military action that defies international law is sometimes justified.
I don't know enough about the law.
I agree. I agree with that. Not strongly, but
I don't know. I don't know that I know enough instances where I could like pull.
I mean, I think just like in a generalization type of way, I'm going to use that word so many times throughout this, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I think that like in general, I don't necessarily believe that law inherently reflects morals. Or my morals, or like what's right, because like there have been laws throughout history that I strongly disagree with.
Right.
And so I just think that, I do think that.
When it does say sometimes justified.
Yeah, not all the time.
Yeah.
I'm fucking crazy.
I'll agree, but I wish that there was like a middle one where it's like I neither agree nor disagree.
I do not know enough.
That would be me.
There is now a worrying fusion of information and entertainment. I would say I strongly agree.
I was going to say I strongly agree as well. I think it's worrying because there's so many news sources there's so many entertainment sources that have now become sort of like news sources that just don't have the qualifications. I mean, even our podcast, like we try our best, and like we've said so many times, like we don't want to be spreading misinformation, but at the same time, I mean, we could be, and there would be a small percentage of the population who would just like take our word for it, sort of thing, and so that concerns me.
Well, and I think that's exactly it, is that like you don't take entertainment as being that serious, so it's something that's like not very like thought out, like you're not making like a grand decision when you're choosing what like Netflix show to watch or something like that. Do you know what I mean? So like I think that when you're receiving like information from similar types of sources, it's like you're kind of just glossing over it so easily. Like you're not being critical, you're not looking for additional sources and stuff. But also I think that, you know, like headlines are obviously meant to be clickbaity a lot of the times. And so people don't read the articles, they read the headline. Yeah. And they go from there. And like, I don't know.
Well, yeah, that was the other thing I was going to say that concerns me is now people aren't going to watch the news to watch, I guess in maybe their eyes, uninteresting news. Yeah. You know, and so the news cycles are based off of what's going to sell, like what's going to get ratings. Yeah. And so in turn, they're turning like tragedy and stuff like that into entertainment, whether you're being entertained like negatively or positively. And a lot of important information gets missed because it might not be so shiny to the eye.
Well, and I do think as well that in a way, I wonder how much people don't choose to go digging just because, like, the news in general is so depressing if you're paying attention even slightly.
Yeah.
And if that just means that you're reading headlines alone, it's still fucking depressing. So, like, I don't know that, a lot of people want to go digging. So it's sort of like, if that's what you're relying on, then it's a worrying fusion, frankly.
When I can't even tell you the amount of times that I've debated with somebody over information that they have gotten from Facebook or a friend of a friend because they're living in the echo chamber, right? Because they're only following the same sort of person.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, but here's all of my statistics that I found from reputable sources saying the exact opposite. Yeah. And they're saying, well, I trust my uncle's cousin.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a social media platform. Okay, that's not true.
Oh, boy.
I hate that.
People are ultimately divided more by class than nationality.
I wouldn't say more.
Yeah, I feel like I would say equally almost. But I mean, I guess in terms of scale, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm going to say agree, but not strongly.
Yeah, actually, I feel like your economical standpoint really, really determines your what's the word I'm looking for? Your potential.
Yeah. Well, and I think that more people are impacted by, like everybody is impacted by being divided by class.
Yeah.
So I would say agree.
Yeah. I shouldn't say it is divided, but it can, like, your potential can be thwarted by your standing.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment.
Dude, I never understood inflation. Okay.
I agree with that.
I tried to ask somebody at work one time. He was like a guest, and I tried to ask him to explain inflation to me.
Sir, will you eat your steak? Might I just ask?
I honestly don't even know how I got into these conversations with some of these people, but I learned a lot as a bartender. And he tried to explain it to me, and it still doesn't really make sense. And he did a really good job at like breaking it down, and it still didn't really make sense to me.
Wish it was here.
Yeah, like why things cost more. And he was like, oh, because this person's charging more for this. But it's like, why can't the person at the very, very top just not charge more? Like, that inflation will happen.
Why do we have money at all?
Yeah. I did, when I took a quiz or whatever in grade 8, I came out a socialist. So maybe that's where I stand with that. Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. Well, yeah, because right now we don't even have livable wages. Even if you're employed, it's still not like livable. So
and I say I would agree because I think that in a way down the line they go hand in hand. I don't know enough about it either to expand on it. Because corporations cannot be trusted to voluntarily protect the environment, they require regulation.
Strongly
agree.
Yes.
Strongly agree. Fuck a corporation.
This
I was literally complaining about this in therapy the other day. I was like, and Annie, I'm like, the world is dying. We're not going to do anything about it. No one's going to do anything until we have to do it. And I'm like, I struggle with this because I'm like personal input versus like fucking, I can't change anything. Like she was like, what the fuck? Like, you are on one today.
She's having an existential crisis. This is how I feel is, yes, I think that the public needs to do their part. I think that we should all be trying to take the
initiative.
And like the better approach. But it starts with the corporations because if it's not an option, we have to abide, right? Like if they stopped making grocery bags, like single-use plastic grocery bags, we wouldn't be able to use them. And then on the other hand, I think I know what you're going to say, if we stopped using them,
exactly,
then the corporations would stop making them because it's all based on money. If we stop purchasing them for 5 cents or 10 pence or whatever it is where you are, then they're going to stop because they're not making any money off of it. And if they find that they've released a sustainable alternative and that is selling better, they're going to change over and sell that instead. So
yeah,
I don't know. I think that it's a lot, I don't know if I should say easier, but I think it would make a bigger impact quicker if we just implemented the laws, because then there's just no choice.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, would there be like some sort of rebellion? Not like rebellion, but like, would people be pissed about it? Absolutely, because people are pissed about wearing a mask over their face, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, are you going to think that your rights are being taken away because we can't use plastic bags? Maybe.
I mean, people value convenience above all else. Like, that's the truth. Like, it really comes down to that. And I do think, yeah, it's hard because it is like a chicken versus egg, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't know, like, it's just supply and demand, so...
Well, and there's a lot of things that the general public actually can't do their part in, like the emissions and like stuff like that these companies are, you know, they're not being held to any standards about. So the plastic bag thing was just like an example, but
I'm very upset.
I like that I got to compare the loss of a plastic bag to having to wear a mask, because that is how silly I see it.
Yeah, I agree.
People getting upset about it.
Next statement. How do you feel about masks? From each according to his ability to each according to his need is a fundamentally good idea. Hold on, I have to break that down in my head for a second. Oh, okay, I understand. Aces in their places, basically.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I like aces in their place. I strongly agree.
Yeah.
I love aces in their places. Why wouldn't you, you know? Why wouldn't you put the best...
I'm trying to think of what the option, the alternative. If you were equally confused by that statement, I'm going to try and like explain it as best I can. So basically, those that are good at what they're good at should be put in those roles to benefit those, to each according to his need. How do you break this down? Aces in their places.
Yeah, I feel like people will understand aces in their places.
Yeah.
I really like that. I feel like I used that when I was working on a team, because we all have different skills, and we could, like, you and I could be good at the same task, but you might be better. And I think that you should be put to that task, because if you can do it better than I, why not?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And vice versa. If I was a little bit better at a skill, like, why wouldn't I take that on? Because also it's going to be easier for me because I'm just inherently or through training better at that skill.
Well, and I do think too that like people are, if given the opportunity to flourish at what they're good at, I think that's far more beneficial overall than trying to cram someone into a different role just because it's what's convenient, maybe, you know?
Yeah, the happiness level. Like when I was like the ace put in my place when I was a bartender, I was way happier than if I was trying to do the job that I... Bless you. The job that I wasn't as good at. And then the team just runs more smoothly. Like if everybody is doing the job that they're like the most happy doing and the most successful at, success, happiness, correlation. So the question, the thing is, the statement is, the freer the market, the freer the people.
I just don't know.
I think some people are dickheads.
That's the thing, is that I don't think that all laws are correct or moral, but I do think that there's a necessity for structure.
Yeah. I think there's a necessity for regulation in certain markets, for sure.
Well, and I think as well that actually protects people.
Yeah.
I'm going to say I disagree.
Yeah, me too.
Based on my understanding.
Like, I'm a little worried because I know that, like, worried putting my views out there, I mean, because I know that a lot of people don't like when other people, like, just back their government. But it's not that I'm backing, like, any one government. I just think that people would, like, hoard an entire market and then become their own self-governing sort of supplier for that. I mean, look at, like, what happened with Amazon during the pandemic. Well, we're still in a pandemic, but during the initial quarantine, they hoarded like all of the hand sanitizer and were selling it for like $80 a pop.
Yeah.
You know, and so there needs to be some sort of regulation so that people don't do that. There's a lot of people who are just inherently greedy.
Well, and I think that like fundamentally I can say that I disagree because I think that there needs to be regulations, but that doesn't necessarily mean that like I feel that the current regulations in our country perfectly align with my beliefs.
Right. The next statement is, it's a sad reflection on our society that something as basic as drinking water is now a bottled, branded consumer product.
I strongly agree.
Yeah, I don't know that I think that it's a sad reflection on our society that it's like a consumer product, because we would all have to have filtration devices somehow.
I think that that's the point, though, is that there's so many communities that are underserved. So the result of that is that there's companies capitalizing on that by having water being bottled, like, you know, this natural resource that everyone should have a right to and should have a right to, like, clean drinking water kind of thing, is something that's being capitalized on.
But if we didn't, I mean, I'm not like disagreeing. I'm just trying to like make sense of it. If we didn't have like, sure, branded water, sure. But if we didn't have filtered water, like filtered by some entity, we would have to filter it ourselves. So then we would have to buy like iodine tablets or like filtration devices anyway.
But that's what I mean, is that I think that it's kind of saying like that this should be a system that's afforded to communities regardless. Like, it shouldn't be something that's like bottled and packaged and, you know, sold to us at a profit. Like, it should just be something that is
just free, subsidized.
Yeah, like
by the government.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay, yeah, I would. Yeah, okay.
Land shouldn't be a commodity to be bought and sold.
In my heart of hearts, I actually agree with that.
I don't know, only because I'm like, what's the alternative? Because like I literally haven't even considered that.
The only reason that I have that like first like thought is because when I was in grade 8, we were talking about it, and if I was living so many years ago where it wasn't so much of like, you know, neighborhoods and stuff like that, like if all we knew was like, I had my land, you had your land, like we had free, like a commune situation. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, it always comes back to the commune,
right?
Yes.
I don't think it would work, because history shows us that it doesn't work, because people come in and invade, obviously, and take over because we're greedy motherfuckers. But in a perfect world, I do think that we should have a right to the planet. That, like, who decided that the government now owns this land, but like the government stole it from other people?
Yeah.
It's like, to me, that's such like a ridiculous like thing, that this is like actual history. So yeah, in a perfect world, I think that we should be able to live on the land and use the land and whatever, and nobody should be greedy. But alas, we all are, to some extent.
Okay, here's where I feel like it goes south, though, is like, so let's say like I have my lot for my house, right? And I build my house on it. So I didn't buy the lot. I was given it by whomever. Like,
you found it.
Okay, sure. But then what's to say that somebody else doesn't go set up a fucking tent in my backyard and they're like, well, this land is your land, this land is my land.
Exactly. But that's how we would live.
I don't know that I'm down.
Okay. That's okay.
I don't know. Like, I guess that I just don't understand what like a viable alternative is, because I think that it would be mayhem.
Well, in today's society, yeah, because we've all grown up in this way. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I know that like my like internal,
your gut reaction,
is like, it's not a feasible thing now. Mm-hmm. But what I wish it was is that we all had just found land, we set up shop, we all had our own skills.
Yeah.
You know, like maybe you guys are good at like basket weaving, and maybe you guys are good at like gathering fruits and veggies.
Oh wow, this is really going like back to
like really far back.
Yeah,
I'm talking.
okay.
Yeah. And then we all kind of use aces in our places, and we live harmoniously, and nobody comes and fucking invades us because we're not greedy.
Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, obviously history shows us that that's not what would have happened, because it didn't happen, but in my perfect world. I'm
going to disagree. However, I'm going to preface that by saying that I do think this system currently is broken. Mm-hmm. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I'm going to agree.
Okay.
It is regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to their society. Well, I wouldn't say that like many people don't contribute to their society, but I would agree that a lot of people manipulate the system.
I think that it should have, if the sentence ended at by people who simply manipulate money, end sentence.
Yeah.
I would say that I agree, but contribute nothing to their society, I just feel like that's very, very rare. Like,
yeah.
Because even with like Jeff Bezos, fuck him.
Yeah.
What a piece of shit. Nobody deserves to have that level of wealth. But at the same time, to say that Jeff Bezos contributed nothing to society would be incorrect.
Yeah.
Because he provided a service that's very valuable.
Yeah.
So, you know, like I think that that's, I don't know. Like I want to answer it based off if that end part was
I'm going to disagree, but I do think that the rich get richer.
Oh, for sure.
And society is set up in a way to reward people who already have money.
Don't even get me started. It literally drives me fucking crazy, dude. Everything about how our system is set up like that drives me fucking crazy. When I was broke as shit, my fucking bank account costed me so much more money that like I needed. Like that $14 made a difference.
Yeah.
And now it costs me nothing.
Yeah.
Because I have money in the bank. And like even just like public transit, oh fuck me. Don't even get me started. With public transit, it's like, you know, we funded it over and over and over again, and it gets more and more expensive, and to the point where it's like this is no longer public.
No, yeah, it's really expensive in Vancouver to take the SkyTrain.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Considering that like already it's just kind of like such a catch-22, because it's either like you live downtown where it's super expensive, or close to downtown where it's expensive, or you live where it's cheaper but then you're paying a shit ton of money to get downtown to your job or school or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and our society is set up where you have to travel in some way.
Yeah.
To get places, to the grocery store, to whatever.
Because we aren't living in a commune.
And honestly, I don't know, just saying. But especially for, you know, people with kids, like when I was a kid, it cost $2.75 to take the bus, or $2.25 when I first started taking the bus. I don't know what it is now, but I know that it's not $2.25 to take the SkyTrain.
Yeah.
Can you imagine having to send your kid to school with $10 so that they could take the bus to school and back? Like that would be enough for me for two days, not one.
Yeah.
And then also lunch.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. You have two kids. It's $20 a day that you're spending on their transportation, not to mention your transportation.
It's fucking insane, dude.
It's crazy.
So I'm going to disagree with that one just because of that end statement of it.
Yeah.
Protectionism is sometimes necessary in trade. I'm going to need to look that up.
Yeah, I don't know what protectionism is.
So the theory or practice of shielding a country's domestic industries from foreign competition by taxing imports.
I would agree. Yeah, because we want to be able to continue our economy.
Well, and I do think like in Canada in particular, our economy is so reliant upon the States. And so a lot of our corporations are owned by American corporations, which just puts us even more at risk to their, you know, policies and stuff like that. So I would say agree.
Yeah. The only social responsibility of a company should be to deliver a profit to its shareholders.
Oh, I strongly disagree.
Yeah, that's not even
what a fucking statement.
A question.
The rich are too... Strongly disagree.
It says the rich are too highly taxed. And that's coming from someone who is like...
I'm highly taxed.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is like, is it stressful? Yes, it is. Because I don't have my fucking ducks in a row.
Yeah.
But I do think that like, it's fucking insane to not. You know what I mean? And like the fact that there is so many loopholes, and the fact that there's like the rich do get fucking richer, and like it's because they are willing to manipulate the system a lot of times. They're willing to take advantage of loopholes, and it's just like, so you would rather benefit yourself only than have your money then, you know, contribute to everybody around you, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and
oh man.
I mean, I talk about being Danish a lot for somebody who's like only a quarter Danish, but
I'm gonna go back to my Danish roots.
But I love Denmark so much. They're taxed extremely high, and honestly, my like political beliefs align so much with what I've found in Denmark, and even things like the school systems and everything that's subsidized by the government. And it's like, I do know that there are some people that I met in Denmark who were like a little salty that they were getting taxed. I think it was 60% that they were getting taxed. But all of my cousins have like master's degrees and are you know, because of that, because of the opportunity for them to go to school and reach their potential, they're making a higher wage than maybe they would have if they didn't have the same opportunities.
Well, and like for me, I'm not inherently against like millionaires. Like I'm not inherently against people that are like really, really wealthy. I'm against billionaires, 100%.
Yeah.
But like I'm not against people who, you know, make good money, fine. But like I do think that needs to be fed back into the economy in a way, because people are people are just hoarding money.
Yeah.
So it does nothing for anybody. And like, okay, sure, you can pass that on to your kids. That's one group of people rather than, you know, benefiting an entire society.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know.
I'm pretty sure I read something about Walt Disney's granddaughter or daughter or something who's like giving
away that cash.
Yeah, I haven't looked it up, so don't quote me on that, but
right.
I do know that I've read a lot of things about her, and I'm like, you go, girl.
Love it.
Crushed it. Anyway.
Those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care. I strongly disagree.
Yeah. Are you joking? No, I think that it's crazy that, there's anyone who receives a lower grade of healthcare.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely what's happening.
Yeah.
You know, and I just think that everyone should have access to healthcare and to proper, adequate care.
Well, and even like, because I think a lot of people would interpret that of like, well, but why shouldn't you be allowed to, you know, go to a different country or like get in quicker if you can pay for it or whatever kind of thing. But that just goes back to the fact that like there's fundamental issues within our medical care.
Right.
That need to be corrected, because there shouldn't be these ridiculously long wait times. Insulin shouldn't cost a fucking arm and a leg.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like those are things that are issues that you shouldn't have to work around them.
Yeah.
You know?
There should be a way for it to be provided to you.
Governments should penalize businesses that mislead the public. I strongly agree.
Yeah. I don't even need to go into detail.
No, I think that's pretty...
A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create monopolies. Oh, yeah. Okay, that's kind of what I was talking about before.
Then how is that a free market? Can you explain that to me or no?
I don't know if I can, like, explain the free market situation because I was, like, a little iffy on it first. But, like, when we were talking so, like, I'm guessing because it's not controlled by the government, they would need restrictions on the ability of, like, what are multinationals?
Companies that are in multiple different countries.
So I guess that there just wouldn't be like government regulation on those companies, but then they need restrictions, but that would be imposed by the government. Anyway, I don't really understand this question in its entirety, but I feel like I agree with it based on what I was saying about people hoarding.
I would agree too.
Okay. We had to take a brief break because my phone was going to die.
All right, now look at some of our personal social values. Abortion, when the woman's life is not threatened, should always be illegal.
Strongly disagree.
I strongly disagree as well. All authority should be questioned.
I said agree. I already did it on my phone.
Because her phone was dying.
Yeah. I said agree. I think that you should question authority, but I think there's another question where I'll explain further.
Okay, so I would say agree. I just think strongly agree is like a little too intense, but I do. I mean, I fucking agree.
Yeah, you question authority.
Oh yeah, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. I disagree.
That reminded me of when we were playing Settlers of Catan, and I was like, an eye for an eye, and you were like, what's the rest of that saying? Makes the whole world blind, Alyssa.
And it's the truth.
But I did say disagree to that. Because,
oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
In real life, I don't believe an eye for an eye. In
so
Catan,
your political views don't bleed into board games?
No, I'm a maniac in board games.
Interesting. Taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theaters or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis. I strongly disagree.
Yeah, I said disagree because I think that art and entertainment are like a right.
But I also think that like museums, like historical, that needs to be preserved.
Yeah, for sure.
So I strongly fucking disagree. School should not make classroom attendance compulsory. How do I feel about that? Well, gosh, I just don't know. What about you?
I said disagree because I do think that education is really important. And I think that in life, you have to do things that you don't always want to do. And that's just kind of the way it is. And it sometimes is for the greater good. And, you don't, to like really break it down, like you don't always want to eat your vegetables, but you kind of got to eat your vegetables. You know what I mean? And so for me, if a kid could just like stay at home and play all day, of course that's what they want to do. But I think that it's important that you learn and you have an education. Do I think that there's something really wrong with public school? Yeah, for sure. There's lots really wrong with it that I don't agree with. But I do think that attendance is important because kids don't always want to do
I'll say
school.
Disagree too.
But is that how you feel?
I just don't know how to feel. And there's no neutral ground. I agree. Obviously, I think education is incredibly important.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do disagree like very heavily with much of how public schools are set up.
The fact that we have to like ask if we can go to the bathroom,
It's fucking weird.
or
But like everything about it, like dress codes and stuff like that, and how much those are like just inherently misogynistic, and it just like I could go on and on and on. So it's hard for me to like side with the thing that I ultimately I don't agree with overall.
Yeah. One of my teachers had a take 5 thing where she gave out 5, I think, per semester or per quarter or whatever, and you could just hand one in and you could take 5 minutes for whatever. You didn't even have to say what you were going to do.
Gonna go smoke a quick blunt. Taking a $5.
But like if you just needed to like get out and like walk the halls for 5 minutes or whatever, and then you had your like take 5 pass, and I think that that's cool. And I just feel like if she was able to do that, like I feel like teachers have more autonomy than they like let on.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
All people have their rights, but it is better for all of us. The different sorts of people should keep to their own kind.
I obviously strongly disagree.
I strongly disagree as well. Good parents sometimes have to spank their children. I strongly disagree.
I strongly disagree. My dad literally never once touched me, like hit me, spanked me, whatever. And like I respected him 100%.
I just think, what does that teach your kids? You know what I mean? Like that teaches your kids that so many things, like that if you don't abide by authority, which we've already prefaced, we believe should be questioned now and again. Like again, we don't have kids. I feel like a responsibility to say that. But I do think it's important to me anyway, that we teach our kids that there needs to be a why. And I'm sure that gets really exhausting when you're a parent and you just like don't want to explain why they need to tie their freaking shoes or whatever. But to me, that teaches further on down the line that they're never going to be like innovators. And maybe not never, maybe that's a little like bit of a stretch, but like just because you say this is the right way to do it, but I found a better way, like let's discuss the why behind it. The why has always been so important to me to even understand something. I need the why. Well, and I just don't think that love and violence should be synonymous.
No.
So
yeah, I strongly disagree.
I do too. Okay, it's natural for children to keep some secrets from their parents. I agree.
Yeah, I think I said strongly agree, because I think privacy is really important for everybody. I don't think that anybody should have to be fully 100% open with anyone. Yeah, if they're not ready.
I agree with that. Possessing marijuana for personal use should not be a criminal offense. Strongly fucking agree.
Yeah, I strongly agree.
The prime function of schooling should be to equip the future generations to find jobs. I disagree.
I said agree. I didn't strongly agree because I don't think that should be the only or like the main thing.
But that's what it says, the prime function.
Yeah, and I don't think it should be the prime function, but I do think that school should prepare you for jobs, which I feel like right now, the way that it's set up, it honestly like doesn't fully do that.
I think that it not only doesn't do that, but also I think that if you invest time into teaching kids like through school to how to be like good people and functional adults and all that kind of stuff, I think that lends to them being you know, a good employee as well.
Yeah.
So I think prime function, no, I disagree.
Yeah.
People with serious inheritable disabilities should not be allowed to reproduce. Strongly disagree.
Yeah, obviously, I strongly disagree.
Good Lord. The most important thing for children to learn is to accept discipline.
I can't remember if I said disagree or strongly disagree.
Yeah, no, I strongly disagree.
Yeah, I think that it's important that people learn that there's consequences to certain actions, absolutely. But
yeah,
what did it say? Prime or
the most important thing for children to learn is to accept discipline.
No, I don't think that's the most important thing that children learn.
No. There are no savage and civilized peoples. There are only different cultures.
I said strongly disagree.
I strongly agree.
Wait, huh?
There are no savages and civilized peoples. There are only different cultures.
Oh, I read it differently.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay.
It changed the very course of the outcome.
I'm sure it didn't. My outcome was like very much what I thought it was going to be, but I read it as like certain civilizations are just savages and certain are civilized.
Yeah, the opposite.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, I strongly disagree with that because
you strongly disagree or strongly agree?
Sorry, strongly agree.
Right.
Yeah, that there are no savage and civilized peoples. Because I just think that like okay, this one's going to be controversial for people, but you know, even when I think the Olympics were happening in Korea, and people were condemning them and wanting to sign petitions because like of like the dog meat trade within Korea, and I don't know. I take issue with that because it's like, who are we to decide what animals are okay to eat and what animals aren't okay to eat? Right. And so we can point at another civilization and say, well, you guys are like, how could you? Like, you're like savages for eating fucking dogs. But it's like, but it's only because you value dogs higher than you value any other animal. And like, I just think that is wrong.
Yeah.
Like you don't get to decide that Western society is the right society. And that's not to say that I agree with everything that goes on in other societies, but I also don't agree with much of what goes on in our society.
Right.
So I strongly agree with that.
Yeah, so I wish I could change my answer, but I already took it. But
but you know in your heart that it's there.
Yeah. But I do think that there are I wouldn't say savage is the right word, but I think that I know that there are people who are like evil. Like there's people who are born without empathy and stuff like that, but
that's not a
no
like pertaining to a particular group of people.
No, yeah.
Okay, those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society's support.
Sorry, can you read that again?
Those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society's support.
Okay, so I did agree. I think this is going to be controversial.
Okay.
This is why I agreed. Because there are people that I've known who could work and are very like able-bodied, able-minded, and chose not to because they didn't like the position that they were offered. And so I just don't agree with that. I think that if you're able to and you need money to live, then you kind of like, as long as it's not demoralizing or whatever, I think that you take that job until you can find one that you are like really happy with.
I would say, I would say that I agree as well. I do think that, I think that like someone's definition of able to work is subjective.
Yeah.
Which is the only thing that makes me kind of be like, when you are troubled, it's better not to think about it, but to keep busy with more cheerful things. I'm like neutral, but I would say that I would sooner disagree than agree. Yeah,
I agreed. But I'll preface that by saying that's what I do.
Yeah.
And I think that moreover, it's important to, as I've learned, really hash out why you're troubled and, you know, if you can afford it, which is so sad that we have to say, like, if you can afford it,
yeah.
Go to therapy and stuff like that. But I do find that if that's not an option, when it wasn't an option for me, distracting myself was the only way that I was going to get through my day, sort of thing. So that's why I agreed.
And I would just say for me, I would disagree because I find that I will stew and stew and stew. Like, I have a really hard time diverting my attention elsewhere. First generation immigrants can never be fully integrated with their new country.
I strongly disagreed.
I mean, I would say I don't know how they'll feel.
Right. I think I think it's saying from, like, your perspective.
Okay, well then I strongly disagree.
Yeah.
What's good for the most successful corporations is always ultimately good for all of us. Wow, strongly fucking disagree.
Yeah. Wait, I want to go back to that other question.
Okay.
Because now that I'm thinking about it more, what does fully integrated really mean? I know that some of the questions are really vague, because I think that you can be Canadian but hold on to your traditions of,
for sure,
of whatever you, you know what I mean? As long as it's, like, within the law of Canada.
Yeah.
You know.
And like, I don't know. That's such a weird question.
Yeah.
I'm still not 100% sure on my answer now.
Yeah.
Because I do, I feel the same. Like, why do you have to be fully integrated? And I think that a lot of the times, like, we view integration with not indoctrination, but
like matching society.
Yeah, like becoming one with that society rather than becoming part of it as your unique self.
Yeah, I guess what I'll say is that
I'm going to change strongly disagree to disagree.
Yeah, I think I said, well, no, I actually think I said strongly disagree. But I want to, like, change my answer to if you have immigrated, you are a Canadian.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, that's
for sure.
That's why I said strongly disagree. But I don't think that you should have to, like, do, you know what I mean? Like, change who you grew up as.
Yeah, like, I don't agree with, the people that are like, well, go back to your country if you don't like it here. It's like, but we don't like some things here.
Yeah.
So, like, why is that okay? And I also think that, like, something that was really eye-opening for me several years ago was someone saying that we only have an issue, we don't have an issue with white immigrants. Because, like, when British people or Australians or whatever are coming to Canada or the US or wherever, we're like, oh, great, cool. They're, like, from Australia, it's sexy, you know?
Yeah.
But anybody else, people take issue with.
I literally was sitting in the doctor's office, like, a year ago, and these women were complaining about immigrants.
I remember this.
Dude, because I was irate. These women were immigrants.
Yeah.
I can't remember where they were from now, but I think they were from, like, either, like, Poland or, anyway, they were white, and they were complaining about immigrants, and they were speaking about when they immigrated from their countries, it was a lot more white in Canada. And I'm just like, oh my God, there's so much wrong with this conversation. And the fact that you are, like, even willing to have it in public is, like,
so embarrassing.
I was jumping out of my skin.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And I should say I was in the wrong there because I didn't say anything.
Hindsight 2020.
Yeah.
Next time.
And that's the thing, is I said something to you and not to them. Anyway.
No broadcasting institution, however independent its content, should receive public funding. I disagree.
I think I said agree.
No broadcasting institution, however independent its content, should receive public funding. Why do you agree?
Because I worry that if they received public funding,
it's lobbying.
It could sway their content eventually.
Yeah. I guess that I would just say that I feel like it's valuable to financially support various institutions.
Yeah.
Which, you know, one could argue that it then sways any institution. I think I'm going to say disagree, but not strongly. Okay, wow, this is never ending.
I know.
Our civil liberties are being excessively curbed in the name of counter-terrorism. I feel like this is more applicable to Americans, personally.
I can't remember what I said to that one. I think I was confused.
Our civil liberties are being excessively curbed in the name of counterterrorism.
Oh, I said disagree. And this is how I made it make sense in my head. I was thinking about like all of the like airport security and stuff like that, how people think that it's like their right to not have to go through airport security.
Yeah.
And I don't think that my civil liberties are being curbed because we now have security.
Yeah, I disagree with that too. A significant advantage of a one-party state is that it avoids all the arguments that delay progress in a democratic political system. Wow, I strongly disagree.
Yeah, because how is it democracy if there's one party to choose from?
Yeah.
I disagree.
Although the electronic age makes official surveillance easier, only wrongdoers need to be worried.
I disagree.
I disagree. Well, I strongly disagree, actually. Yeah. I don't know.
I just believe in privacy, as we all know, so.
Well, and I think that, like, we look at how our justice system is corrupt in many ways, and I feel like that would, like, it would affect different communities exponentially over others, you know what I mean? So we would see, and we do see, people of color being persecuted very, very differently from white people. So I think that, no, I strongly disagree. The death penalty should be an option for most serious crimes. I'm going to say I disagree.
That's what I said, because it's hard for me, because on the one hand, I mean, it's so hard, because I don't think that anyone deserves death.
But then I disagree with that in some ways.
Yeah, I was thinking also from a tax standpoint, like if this person is never going to be rehabilitated and their crime is so serious that like there's no way they're ever going to set foot outside of a prison, like why do my tax, and I'm not really one to really be like my tax dollars, but like why do my tax dollars have to fund this guy or girl, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, well, first of all, I think that serious crime is subjective again.
Yeah.
And I think that, again, we have communities that are being disproportionately affected by that.
Right.
And so but yeah, it's hard because, I mean, there are some people that, like, I read certain articles and I'm like, yeah, fuck that guy. Like, you know, like I'm not upset to see them gone necessarily. Yeah. So I don't know. That's really hard, but I'm going to say disagree, not strongly disagree.
Yeah. Again. My thing too with like the system being flawed is like, what if somebody was wrongfully convicted for a really heinous murder and now there's no coming back from that? Like, it's horrific to see people who are like doing life get released because they were exonerated, but there's no coming back from death.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like, yeah.
Oh, yeah. In a civilized society, one must always have people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded. I strongly disagree, I think.
Oh, I agreed.
Really?
Yeah, because
I think there needs to be regulation again.
Exactly.
And structure, but I don't think it necessarily has to be a hierarchy.
I don't think it needs to be one person, but I feel like, and maybe it's because of how I was raised in this society that has obviously this type of government or whatever, but I think that there needs to be a governing authority that lays out laws or regulations or whatever, and there to be some sort of consequence if we don't abide by them, because we see that if there isn't, you do whatever you want and it's not always for the greater good.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a hard one.
That is a hard one. I'm going to stick with disagree, though.
Yeah.
Abstract art that doesn't represent anything shouldn't be considered art at all. I strongly disagree.
I said disagree.
Who gives a fuck?
But like I a little bit agree, because I don't understand a lot of art, especially abstract art. Mm-hmm. But just because I don't understand it doesn't mean that it doesn't elicit feelings in other people.
And I think that's exactly it. I don't think that art is inherently meant to be understood. I think it's meant to be enjoyed.
Yeah.
And at that rate, it's subjective. So I think that who gives a shit?
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, like, does like a Jackson Pollock elicit feelings for me? No.
Should have seen stuff from his darker days, man. It was interesting. He lived a real life outside of that.
But that's the thing, is like his life would elicit feelings in me, not the art. But that's because I'm not like really art minded.
Go hand in hand. That's a thing.
I know. I'm not disagreeing that like that's so true for you.
Yeah.
But for me, like I look at art and I'm like,
but it is interesting seeing those things aligned, because like he felt like he couldn't, if I recall correctly, if this is the correct artist that I have in mind, he basically couldn't, the Jackson Pollocks that you're thinking of, he felt like he couldn't trump that kind of thing. Like he couldn't go above that. So then his art became really fucked up, like really like dark and weird, and like, because he just felt like he could never, accomplish more than that.
The art that I appreciate, as I've found, is symmetry.
Okay. What's like a painting that you've really enjoyed? I'm just curious at this point.
I couldn't tell you. Like when I walk through museums,
Starry Night?
No, I really, really enjoyed Starry Night. But I think that it was more so the fact that I learned so much about specifically that painting through school. And so it brought back feelings for me of learning about the painting. Instead of like the swirls in the brush strokes.
Oh, it was so cool to see in person for exactly that reason.
Yeah. I did cry when I saw it, but I think it was more so that I was like, oh my gosh, like
starstruck.
Such a famous painting. Yeah. But I remember walking through a couple museums with you in New York, and I was pointing out stuff that I like, because you asked me that same question. You were like, oh, okay, so you like symmetry. And I was like, sure.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Yeah. In criminal justice, punishment should be more important than rehabilitation.
I strongly disagreed with that.
Strongly disagree as well.
Yeah, I think that there are certain people, and even like serial killers especially, who have even said that they can't be rehabilitated, and I think that that's an interesting thing that they know. But there are so many offenders who have the capacity for rehabilitation. And I think that that's more important than punishment in certain instances.
Well, and I just think like thinking about how many people have like childhood trauma and how much that shapes you as an adult. I think it's so fucking unfair, because again, you didn't choose your family or your circumstances. So does that mean that you don't deserve a shot at life? No. So, you might make mistakes as a result of that, but I think that rehabilitation is super important, because I do think there's lots of people that fall between the cracks because we just immediately write them off, and that doesn't do anything for anyone. It's a waste of time to try to rehabilitate some criminals. Well, I guess I would say I agree for some.
I think I said disagree, because I think we should always try.
Yeah.
But if you're not seeing progress, especially in the empathy department, I'm not saying, because I think that sociopaths now have a really bad rep as well, because we see sociopathy like so often with serial killers. Like we kind of think the same of the two, but there are people who are born without empathy who aren't going around and like
killing people. So
I don't want to like continue that stigma, but in violent offenders, showing remorse is one of the main things that I from what I've learned on like crime documentaries and shit like that, is one of the main things that they look for in rehabilitation.
Yeah. I'm going to stick with agree. I feel like there are those people that like you could what is it called? This is going to be the worst to edit. Like I feel like there are people that you could determine, like you're saying, kind of thing. Yeah. Like they're not a contender for rehabilitation.
Yeah.
Okay. The business person and the manufacturer are more important than the writer and the artist. I strongly disagree.
Yeah, I strongly disagree too. I think that the writer and the artist are more important, if anything.
Yeah. Well, and I think that all people are important. Like I do think that, again, like that's like what makes our society valuable is having aces in their places and having people be able to flourish within what they're good at. Mothers may have careers, but their first duty is to be homemakers. I strongly disagree.
I strongly agree.
Yeah.
/S. Yeah. Obviously, I'm being sarcastic. Yeah, no, I strongly disagree.
Lord. Multinational companies are unethically exploiting the plant genetic resources of developing countries. I strongly agree.
Yeah, I said agree because I don't have enough, like I haven't researched it and I don't know enough about it, but I wouldn't doubt that that's happening. Absolutely.
100%. Making peace with the establishment is an important aspect of maturity. I disagree.
Oh, I agreed. This is my thing, is
making peace with the establishment of my dead body.
Okay, but this is how I saw it, is like making peace with the fact that like we do have like a government, and I need to make peace with the fact that like I have a choice, and I've chosen the leader, and I just have to make peace with the fact that like I want to take the good, and like the bad is just there.
Okay, I guess I see a difference between making peace with the establishment and making peace with your position within the establishment. Do you know what I mean? Like because like, yeah, like I'm a part of this society that I don't have a choice around. I have peace around that because I'm like, nothing I can fucking do about that fact.
Right.
But I don't have peace with the establishment in general because I will contest it.
Okay.
Until the day I die. So I'm going to say disagree. Astrology accurately explains many things.
I said strongly disagree. I feel like this is going to be
it is going to be controversial. I'm going to say disagree because I'm looking at the camera because I know people are going to be upset about this, because I don't know enough. So I know that there's people that really, really strongly believe in it, and I'm sure that there's reasons for that beyond just like, you know, your feelings kind of thing. So I just don't know enough. So I'm going to say disagree currently. You cannot be moral without being religious. Fucking strongly disagree.
Yeah, I strongly disagree to that.
Charity is better than social security as a means of helping the genuinely disadvantaged. Strongly disagree.
Yeah, strongly disagree. I think that it's amazing that so much of our society is charitable, truly. But
it shouldn't be a necessity.
But it shouldn't be a necessity is absolutely correct. I don't think that you should have to have a GoFundMe so that you can afford asthma inhalers or cancer treatment or whatever. I think that should be your right as a citizen.
Yeah, like I think charity is a natural response to a broken system.
Yeah.
So some people are naturally unlucky. I don't think people are naturally unlucky. I think people are naturally disadvantaged as a result of our society. So I guess I'll say agree.
Oh, I said disagree because I don't think it comes down to luck. I think it comes down to
systemic issues.
Exactly.
Okay, well,
no, you go. It's not supposed to be too hard thought about.
No, I know, but I can't.
I'm not trying to like convince you on my. I'm just explaining.
I know, but I'm going to say agree because I think based on like what they're trying to convey. Yeah. Okay. It is important that my child's school instills religious values. Disagree strongly.
Yeah, I said strongly disagree.
Finally, a look at sex. Sex outside marriage is usually immoral. I strongly disagree.
Yeah, I strongly disagree.
A same-sex couple in a stable, loving relationship should not be excluded from the possibility of a child adoption. Strongly agree.
This page like went so fast for me. I was like, oh, perfect.
Yeah. Pornography depicting consenting adults should be legal for the adult population. Strongly agree.
Yeah, same.
What goes on in private bedroom between consenting adults is no business of the state.
I had to
consenting
think about,
adults, yes.
I had to think about that one because I was like, wait, but then it said adults also because I was like, I mean,
animals. I was like, bringing in a kid or something.
Yeah, but it said consenting adults.
Yeah. So strongly agree. No one can feel naturally homosexual. Strongly disagree.
But that's the thing is like, it pains me to know that there's probably people out there who are like opposing us on those ones, which is just like, I mean, again, everybody has their own opinions, but
doesn't mean you're right. These days, openness about sex has gone too far. I strongly disagree.
Yeah, I think I said disagree because I still think that there's like a time and place where you can't be like maybe talking about, you know, certain things, because I wouldn't be like talking to my boss about the massage I got yesterday if they're like my higher up. But I think that it should be akin, or it could be akin to like, I got a massage last night. I had sex last night.
Getting that deep.
Yeah.
I would say strongly disagree just because of how stigmatized it still is.
Right. Yeah.
So that's that. Now let's see where I stand. Okay. What's your political compass, Alyssa?
My political compass is economic left, right is negative 5.25. So I'm like left. And then I'm social libertarian, authoritarian 5.44. So I'm like left libertarian.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
That's where my little dot is.
Oh, wow, you're more liberal than I am.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Basically, my graph shows that I'm right in the middle of left.
And I'm a little bit more left than that.
Yeah.
3 spots away from being extreme.
Yeah, so anytime that anyone calls me an extremist, I can be like, no, I'm a middle leftist.
Yeah.
But interestingly, I'm not too far away from Gandhi, which makes me happy.
Yeah, same. He was a little bit more towards the equator, though.
Yeah, towards the equator, yeah.
Oh, wow, I'm definitely not over by Hitler, which is nice. I'm actually very much opposing Hitler.
You're, like, actually, like, the farthest from Hitler, almost, you could be.
Take that, internet.
Yeah. Oh, wow, you're, like, pretty far down there in the anarchy situation.
Me?
Yeah. Because here's anarchy.
Yeah, I'm dangerously close to anarchy, one could say. I'm not surprised, even slightly.
No, I knew that I was going to be a little bit more in the middle than you. But I'm not surprised that I'm on leaning to the left.
Yeah, that's just a touch.
Yeah.
Well, that's that. Hopefully that was somewhat interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a little scary putting like the entirety of your political views out on the internet.
I mean, I feel like
people already know.
Yeah, like in so many words, read between the lines kind of situation. Like, it's pretty fucking apparent.
Yeah.
The anarchy runs deep.
I'm not as
not
as much of an anarchist as you are, but
all right. Thank you guys so much for hanging out and watching another episode of Approachable.
Yeah, and we will see you guys next week.
Bye.